Welcome back to our Mastering B2B webinar series. In episode 1, we unpacked what has changed in webinar expectations and how the bar has gone up and what it now takes to actually convert the viewers. Today we are getting into what I call the foundation layer, the blueprint, the format, the narrative, and the goal of the overall webinar. And this isn't just the theory. I have run everything from crowded AMAs to quiet webinars that's surprisingly converted. And if there's one thing that I have learned from my experience is that it's that what you plan before the event often matters more than what happens in it and post the webinar. So Shambhavi, welcome back, and let's just dive into the decisions that actually shape a successful session. Okay, let's just start with the format. These days, you've got ample number of options from live to simu-live or maybe hybrid. Each one changes how you prepare and how your audience experience the session. In your experience, what has worked really well for you, and when do you decide that which format you're going to go ahead with?
So in our experience, I think a default format that we just rely on when nothing else works is definitely the webinar, the 60 minutes, 45 to 60 minutes webinar. Everyone's familiar with it. Most people have time for an hour. It can be very topical and it can be executed with any amount of planning you want to put into it. So minimal planning and effort to a lot of planning and effort as well. So I think that's for me like a definite success always. For audience engagement, I think webinars get a deeper engagement from a set group of attendees since there's only an hour or so of their attention is required. So I think for a longer event, maybe I personally work a lot in this multi-session day-long event where the engagement is varied and from different subsets, because mostly a person might not be able to attend a whole day event with a uniform amount of attention. So I think for that, they might not be able to be equally engaged in every session. The subset of people that's getting engaged is different. We've also used this simu-live or a pre-recorded webinar to some successes, because sometimes we have a space in these day-long events where we want people to be engaged in multiple things rather than just one thing. For example, we give them the option to visit booths, to network, as well as to attend sessions. So this is something that has worked well for us then. I think just also in terms of format, something to keep in mind is the operational load. Like a multi-session event will have more operational load as opposed to just a webinar. So yeah, just something to keep in mind.
That makes so much of sense, Shambhavi. And in fact, we have seen something similar, especially when it comes to the simu-live, where you want the full polish, but don't want to compromise on the engagement or the interaction. And in fact, one thing I love about platforms is that they allow the both things. You can pre-record the session, but still keep the chats, polls, live Q&A, buzzing questions live there. Now, beyond the delivery style, the format, let's talk about the format of the content itself. You've got panels, deep dives, demos, through thought leadership sessions, but not all of them drive that same level of outcomes. So what has worked for you when it comes to driving the intent, real conversation, maybe the post-event pipeline, impact, nurtures, and not just people showing up or attending the event?
Yeah, I think really good question. What has worked really well for us, maybe even the best, is a masterclass or a workshop format, which I think is really effective in driving post-event conversations as well. In my opinion, it has the most potential. It goes deeper. It allows people to see your stuff. It also allows them to do, I think, action, especially in a virtual format, is probably undermined, but also difficult to execute because it's virtual. But I think a masterclass or a workshop allows you to build trust, allows audience to be engaged, they're active, they're learning, which means that energy and intent is just high by default. I think they're more likely to invest in something for their growth, their fuel. So I think you can then also be fueled with such a format. You can maybe include a quick demo if it aligns with the content. You can showcase some aspects of your product as long as they align with the content, I feel. You can collaborate with industry experts. And just basically, it can be a really, truly impactful event for audience takeaway as well as for your business.
I really love the way you bifurcated and explained basis of your experience. Now I want to shift the gears to something you and I both care about. That is the narrative. A lot of webinars throw slides together, add a speaker, and hope for the best. But the strongest session I have run started with a story arc, even before the deck or sharing the screen. And my own process usually starts with what pain are we addressing in today's session? What is that one moment that people are looking forward to? What's the CTA? Then we reverse the engineer everything else, be it slides or anything else. So, what is your approach when you are building out the narrative?
So not very different from what you said. I think reverse engineering being the key word. The starting point for me also is, and I've said this before as well, but the question or the big idea, the why. I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's this author called Simon Sinek who has a book called Start With Why. The why is a really big concept. Seems simple, but a really big concept in any kind of building or creativity or creation that we talk about. But yeah, the why are we doing this is where it starts from, and then everything is reverse engineered, like you said. For example, for this one event that I work on, the goal is to have basically extremely high quality sessions that make our community or as a brand synonymous with the category or the space that we're in, which means that I start building from there, from that idea of that high quality event, and everything thereon is seen through the filter of, is this peak quality? Is this trust inciting? Would it make me as an attendee or choose this company for whatever? And so therefore it's important that the CTA that you have is also not a clash. It's if the session has the goal of field knowledge building. So for example, in the HR tech space, if the session is maybe not about a product, but it's about how to use AI in hiring, or it's a professional development session for the audience, your CTA needs to be organic. I think in the flow of that session, there needs to be maybe an intermediary CTA. So for example, instead of saying, hey, have a demo or whatever, go look at our product, you maybe say join a community or subscribe to a newsletter. So that those are some ways in which I think of storytelling or the narrative or the flow of the session.
And sometimes I feel just adding a simple user story makes all the difference. I have also started thinking of my webinars like a sales call with 50 people. Each section has to earn that trust and move them forward. And honestly, every slide order even makes a difference. The order changes when you think in stories and not just features. And just one trick that I have been using in my webinars is having one strong hero moment every section, especially if I know that people might drop off after this session, just to get them engaged, move them forward. So I think that trick has really helped me out to build that engagement and interaction during my webinars. Okay, so now let's talk about what happens before the planning even begins: the timing, audience, and internal alignment. I've seen amazing webinars flop just because they are launched too early in a product cycle or didn't have a buy-in from the sales to follow up. So what is your process to align internally, and how do the timing thing fit into the picture?
Honestly, I think my answer for this is really simple. The first thing we do to decide the timing or what is right, what is it to be at the right place at the right time, is to study our audience habits. Because this will differ from, I think, company to company. In our case, we have a very established, very large and rich community that really helps us with this to understand what our audience will like. And also, this community is a very now a strong in a microcosm of a larger community that is our intended audience. But yeah, so you study their habits, you just try as much as you can to determine, will a weekend work better, will a weekday morning, what time zone, what works better. There is definitely some amount of trial and error in it. And then we just check for clashing holidays. That's actually for us, it we align on a date between a very lean team, because I think the larger the number of people, the more striations you'll get in the amount of opinions you have. So we align within a very lean team, and then we do a really good job of just over communicating and spreading the awareness of when this is happening, just ensuring there are no clashes. And that has worked quite well for us.
Great. And in fact, I've started looping in my sales enablement folks, the product marketing teams, and everyone way in advance before launching
Yes.
the event as well, which really made a huge difference in the overall communications and, in fact, the promotions that we do. So, Shambhavi, this was the last section for today's episode. And if you are watching this and trying to figure out why your webinars feel flat, revisit the foundation, I would just say. The format, the structure, story, and alignment, they are the blueprint of any webinar that you're hosting. The best webinars just don't happen by accident. They are mapped, they are structured, and tie up to the real goals in advance what you are looking forward to achieve from this specific webinar. So, in the next episode, we will dig into how to get the right people to actually show up and not just register for the event. Shambhavi, this was amazing as always, like the episode one. Thank you so much for the insights. See you in the episode 3.
Yes. See you.